Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea, and this is a companion video. Now, you might be asking yourself, John, what is a companion video? Well, I'm awfully glad that you asked. See, every day on the John Campea Show, Monday through Friday, we take time to take live questions from the audience. However, we don't always have time to get around to all the live questions that get sent in. But I want to make sure if you sent in those questions, they get answered properly in a video, so we gather them up and we address them here on companion videos. So let's not waste any time, guys. Let's start getting right into the leftover questions that we have and start getting caught up here. And we're going to start things off here with 50 Shades of Geek, who writes, wild theory. The street artist that painted the wall mural of Spider-Man never got a good look at Spider-Man, so he thought that's what his costume looked like. Stupid theory, I know, full of plot holes, but it makes sense to me. Now, one of the things, what 50 Shades is referring to here is the fact that, you know, the mural that we see of Spider-Man on the wall with the word murderer over it in the Morbius trailer, a lot of people point out, hey man, that looks a lot more like Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. I actually thought it looked more like the video game Spider-Man, but whatever. So it got a lot of people going, oh my gosh, are they crossing over with the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man? No, clearly they're not. But I said, but you know what, it's not any Spider-Man, it's a mural that an artist painted. And I'll tell you what, 50 Shades, your theory about it's just an artist, you know, painting what his interpretation of Spider-Man is. I don't think you're actually all that far off. And honestly, talking about plot holes, I think all of us, including this guy, are reading far too much into what is a quick, you know, Easter egg on a wall. I do think it means something, but I think all of us, including me, are probably reading a little bit too much into it and trying to figure it out. So no, I don't think your idea has massive plot holes, not at all. All right, Fabian Vegas writes, hey, John and crew. What do you think the DCEU will use, or do you think the DCEU will use the whole Crisis event as an excuse for the soft reboot of the films? It's as good as any excuse. No, I don't. And the main reason is this. First of all, the television shows are so finitely smaller than the movies. The fact for CW shows, the Arrowverse shows do all right. But the reality is not a lot of people watch the CW shows. And a very finite number of people watch the shows as compared to go out and watch the movies, right? So no, they'll never do anything like that, I don't believe. And I don't believe they're going to have something happen in the TV universe that affects the movie universe. Like, it's this kind of the same thing that we saw happen in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like, we saw things that happened in the Marvel movies affected the TV shows like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. most prominently. But nothing that ever happened in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. ever was directly referenced in the movies or an after effect or consequence of something that happened in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show was never talked about, directly referenced or anything, or had any real implications in what went on then in the movies. So I don't think it'll go that way. I really don't. I don't think you'll ever hear mention of what happened in the CW crossover in the movie universe. Now, then again, I never thought we'd actually see Ezra Miller's Flash pop up in in the Crisis crossover either. So take that with a grain of salt, but I don't think that's what they're going to do. But again, let's keep ourselves open. They could surprise us yet again. All right, Ain't Banks 1984 writes, where would you rank Danny Elfman's score on Batman 1989, the music in the beginning credits, and the music leading up to the shot of Batman at the I don't like to do a lot of rankings, so I don't know where I would rank it per se, but it is one of the better superhero themes in movies we've ever had. It's one of the better ones. I mean, obviously, I think the king of all of them is Superman. And it's the two Superman ones, the John Williams ones and the Zimmer one. I love Zimmer's Man of Steel. What are you going to do when you're not saving the world? I love that. I get pumped up to that music like crazy. But then again, there's the John Williams Superman theme, which is probably the greatest one of all time. So I would probably say, I mean, if I had a wild guess, I'm not going to sit here and do a ranking. If I had a wild guess, definitely top 10. Definitely top 10. Probably top 5, because it is one of the more recognizable ones too. It's absolutely one of the more recognizable ones. All right, Ant Banks 1984 also writes, where would you rank? Oh, it's the exact same question. Oh, but you added a little bit more to it. Where would you rank Danny Elfman's score on Batman 1990 to other comic book movies? The music to start the movie and also the music at the end. Love show, look over. I just kind of answered that. Again, not giving a specific ranking, but if I did sit down to do a full ranking, I wouldn't be surprised if it ended up in the top 5. You know, one of the things that I've always said, whereas, you know, the Marvel movies up till now in general, have been better than the DCU movies. I like all the DCU movies, but up until now, the Marvel movies have generally probably been better than the DCU movies. But one of the things that I've always thought the DCU has done better is their music and scores. For the most part, I've found a lot of the music in the MCU movies serviceable, but rather forgettable at the same time. Like, I really couldn't tell you what Doctor Strange's theme sounds like. I really couldn't tell you what Captain Marvel's theme sounds like. I really couldn't tell you off the top of my head or hum a few bars for you right now what Thor's theme is. Now, Endgame had a great score. Sure, yes, absolutely. But, I could tell you right now the Man of Steel's score. I could tell you the Batman theme in the DCEU. I could definitely tell you the Wonder Woman theme. Like, I could definitely tell you that. I mean, just something, they've done such a really good job with that, and going all the way back into a legacy mode with that Batman 1989 version, I think is a part of that as well. All right. Gronagor writes, prediction, end of The Black Widow will show Skrulls replaced her and Tony before Endgame. Yeah, I know, you won't be happy. Secret Invasion is coming. No, they're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. But listen, let me tell you what, Gronagor, it ain't the craziest thing I've heard all day. It is not the craziest thing I've heard all day. But again, I mean, that would be taking fake deaths to a whole new level, and it would piss all the MCU fans off. Because arguably, one of the big moments in the MCU has been the death of Tony Stark, and now you just pull it out and say that was a big fake. I think it would piss a lot of people off. Anonymous writes, it's ironic to me that Warner Brothers asked for the Ezra Miller Flash Crisis cameo post-filming, considering many years of imposing silly character restrictions on the TV shows. Hope they at least traded for a Deathstroke appearance in the Arrowverse finale. Well, I mean, I was surprised to hear that it was actually Warner Brothers, because that Ezra Miller, in case you didn't hear us talk about this on the show earlier, that Ezra Miller appearance in the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover was done long after filming was done. Like, it was long after the show was shot. And it was kind of Warner Brothers that said to him, like, hey, what if we throw this in? Do you think we can do that? And they said, sure. So they shot that one scene and just kind of threw it in there. They really forced it in there. It did not feel natural. It didn't work. Anyway. But everybody got excited to see Ezra Miller in there. But to me, what that was, and I haven't had anybody from Warner Brothers tell me that this is the case. I'm just speculating. But to me, what that really was Warner Brothers making a statement that the Ezra Miller Flash thing is still happening. Because for many good reasons, there's been a lot of questions about the Ezra Miller Flash stuff because of all the, the stops and starts, the changing of release dates, all that kind of stuff. The movie was supposed to come out years ago. And they still haven't, begun shooting it or anything. They still say they're going to do it. To me, that was them making a statement that this Ezra Miller Flash movie is still absolutely happening. I'll still believe it when I see it, but I kind of take it as that. But man, I've always thought one of the dumbest things they've ever done was telling the Arrowverse they couldn't use Manu Bennett, the actor who played Deathstroke on Arrow. I always thought it was one of the dumbest things ever, them telling the Arrowverse, you can't use the Manu Bennett Deathstroke anymore. It's like, what's the point of separating your movie and television universes if you're not going to let the TV universe use a great character like that? It was one of the dumbest things ever. Anyway, Preston Walden writes, celebrating my birthday today. Happy birthday, Preston. Going to be a great year. Set to lens a SAG film later this year and boarding 2 more in 2021. Always believe, never quit. That is awesomely exciting, Preston. That is great. You're living the dream, dude. That is so exciting. Congratulations. I hope you had a fantastic birthday. And dude, with stuff like that ahead of you, I hope for nothing but continued success for you, brother. So good luck on that stuff, man. All right. Kenneth Colton writes, speaking of Robert Downey Jr., Dolittle sitting at a 13% on Rotten Tomato after 67 reviews. Now, it's gone up a little bit. Let me bring it up here. Let me just check it. Dolittle Rotten Tomatoes. As of right now, the recording of this video, there are 103 reviews now, and it's gone all the way up to 19%. 19%. And I'm telling you, that's generous, because I saw this movie. I wanted to like this movie. It had all the best of intentions. It's a bad film. It's a bad movie, man. And look, all film is subjective. You may watch it and love it, and if you do, that's awesome. But I walked out really disappointed. But we'll see what happens. Esteval Garcia writes, looks like Dolittle is an abysmal disaster. I mean, look, it's not going to be the worst film of the year, but it's a bad film. Rcast6 writes, would live-action anime movies be considered comic book adaptations? After all, manga are basically Japanese comic books. You know what? I don't think they would be considered that. Now, we could sit around and argue the semantics of it, but I think when people say comic book movies, right? Like, for instance, you could say Road to Perdition, I believe it's Road to Perdition, is based on a graphic novel. You could say that's a comic book movie. But I think when generally speaking, and again, it's semantics, but generally speaking, when people say comic book movie, they're thinking of the traditional superhero genre that we know, the traditional DC and Marvel stuff. And I think that's important because otherwise we're not having a shared vocabulary. So when people say comic book movies, I don't think they think manga. Honestly, I think that's its own genre in and of itself. And maybe I'm wrong. And again, maybe we're just getting into arguing semantics, but kind of in my personal interpretation, I see that as its own genre. So that's how I would look at it at any rate. Interesting question though, Rcast. All right. Min Tran writes, just listen to Robert Downey Jr.'s Joe Rogan interview. I got the impression that never say never, but at this moment, I believe he believes that he's done with Iron Man for the near future. We talked about this a little bit earlier in the show on the John Campea Show earlier today, is that, yeah, he did kind of sound like that there, but that was before the reviews for Dolittle came out. Also, he did another morning show after that where he said things that really did sound like the door is not closed. You know, don't get me wrong. He didn't say, yep, I'm going to come back as Iron Man eventually. He didn't say that, but the impression I got was definitely that the door was not closed. And look, I've said from the beginning, there is no chance he doesn't come back as Iron Man. It's not going to be this year. It's not going to be next year. It may not even be within the next 3 years, but I am telling you, he will come back. And, you know, just like he was going to leave the MCU and then his movie outside of the MCU, The Judge, didn't do well, and all of a sudden he was back in the MCU. I got a feeling a movie like Dolittle may kind of stoke the fires for him to maybe, hey, you know how everybody loves it when I play Iron Man? Maybe I should come back to that. So I think he'll be back. He'll absolutely be back. Again, not this year, not next year, maybe not even within the next 3 years, but he'll be back. You mark my words, Min, he'll be back. All right, Captain Lakari writes, I still get chills listening to Greatest SM. Oh, I'm going to guess you mean Greatest Showman music. Oh, I do too. Every couple of weeks, I'll pop on the Greatest Showman stuff. I love it. The music in that movie is so utterly fantastic. I love it more and more all the time. Matsive Jada writes, unexpected good reviews for Bad Boys. I might go now. Yeah, listen, as of right now, or at least as of this morning, the new Bad Boys film, Bad Boys for Life, is holding a 75% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's very strong. That's a strong showing. And it's better than I thought. Because listen, I thought the first trailer, quite frankly, was quite bad. I thought the first trailer for Bad Boys for Life was bad. I thought the subsequent ones were better. I thought the subsequent ones were better, but I still didn't have super high expectations. 75% is actually pretty damn solid for a movie like this. And I gotta admit, I was going to take a pass on Bad Boys, but I will probably get myself out to go see it now. All right. Nick Garula writes, hey, John, you mentioned you're doing a documentary. I am. We've already started shooting. I'm pretty excited about it. That's awesome. What is it about? Also, are you going to continue with your after movie 1 minute reviews? Yeah, for the most part, I'm going to still do that, but it's only, here's the problem. I'm only doing the immediately out of the theater reviews when I go to a press screening, and I don't go to many press screenings. And like the last couple of press screenings I went to, there was still a review embargo in place and even social media review embargoes. So I couldn't even do a 1 minute post thing. And because of the season that it's been, I haven't been going opening night. And if I can't have any kind of review out by opening night, I don't really see a lot of point in me doing it. As far as what is my documentary about, I'm not telling people yet. I will let you know this. It has something, I think it's safe to say it's something to do with movies. I mean, which is, whoa, big surprise. Campea's doing something about movies. Yeah, obviously. But I can tell you that much. the movies and the movie sphere, I guess I can tell you. Other than that, you will have to wait and see. I'm still kind of sitting on that for now, but I'll announce what it's about in the coming months. Probably in the next month or two, I'll let everybody know what it is. But thank you for that, Nick. I appreciate that. Right, Lime Ridge writes, watched a movie at the Toronto International Film Festival called Guns Akimbo. Isn't that the one with Harry Potter boy, Daniel Radcliffe? I believe that's the one with him. It's like an Edgar Wright film on drugs. Isn't an Edgar Wright film like an Edgar Wright film on drugs? Anyway, it's an Edgar Wright film only on drugs. Loved every moment of it. Trailer finally came out, and I hope you guys go out and support it. Truly one of the most fun watches of the year. Hey man, listen, I actually count myself as a Daniel Radcliffe fan. I think he has done some now, he hasn't had any big hit movies outside of Harry Potter, granted, but I actually think that he has done some really solid work. Whether you're talking about Horns or you're talking about Swiss Army Man, obviously that was a very different kind of a role. He did that one weird little quirky romantic comedy. I actually think he's done some really good work. And I'm excited to see where his career goes. I hope he's kind of on a Robert Pattinson path right now. You know, Pattinson came out of Twilight, then spent years just doing small indies, proving he's one of the best actors in the world. And now he's coming into the bigger spotlight with a lot of cred, and I hope Daniel Radcliffe can do the same. I'm not saying he will, but I kind of hope he's going to be able to do the same. All right, Radley Jacinto writes, harder secret to keep from the public. Harder secret to keep from the public. One, from a movie, Crying Game, Han in Episode 9, or TV, Baby Yoda, Meeting of Two Flashes. Guessing movies with larger amounts of people time before release, but how is this time age? That is one of the most confusing, I can be honest with you, Radley, that's one of the most confusing messages ever. Guessing movies with larger amount of people time before release, but how is this time age? I'm thinking what you're basically, what's the hardest secret to keep? A movie spoiler or a TV spoiler? Well, there's only one that really should be kept, and that's the movie ones. And television, I've talked about this before. TV's TV. Like when the football game is on Monday night, the Monday night football game is on. You don't tell people, don't talk about what the score of the game was. There's some people that might not have seen it yet. It was a publicly broadcast game, and the result is public knowledge at this point. And if you don't want to know what the score of the game was, it is up to you to stay away from social media until you can watch it on your DVR. It's not up to everybody else. You can't expect everybody else not to have the right to openly talk about it. It was a publicly broadcast thing. It's now public knowledge. And so it's not a question of which one is a harder secret to keep. It's just that one is only really a legit secret you should keep and one isn't. So that's kind of how I look at it at any rate. All right. Carlos Herrera writes, hey, John and crew. Love your show. Thank you so much, Carlos. I was watching Joe Rogan Experience with Robert Downey Jr., and he was talking about how he can't wait to see how Pattinson will do as Batman and how he loves his work. I believe that that should legitimize the non-believers. What do you think? No, it won't. No. An actor being asked about another actor, you shouldn't trash talk them, but saying, oh, I can't wait to see that. Of course, that's what he's going to say. That's what he should say. That is the proper PR thing to say. I personally think he means it because Robert Pattinson's incredible. But if somebody isn't looking forward to Robert Pattinson being Batman, just Robert Downey Jr. just saying the PR thing to say and the correct thing to say isn't going to change their minds. I think Robert Pattinson's filmography should change people's minds. But honestly, I still find to this day that the majority of people, and I'm just saying this is what I have found in my experience, the majority of people who are still boo-hooing over Robert Pattinson playing Batman, when I've pressed a number of people on it, it's like, have you ever seen High Life? Have you ever seen Good Time? Have you ever see, and I list all these movies, and none of them have seen him. They've never seen any of them. All they know him from is from Twilight. And I suppose if that's all you know him from, and if that's all he ever did, I would get the criticism. But I just don't get when you see the work he has done in the 7 years, however long it's been, since Twilight. I just don't see how you couldn't be excited about it. Again, it's still a matter of personal taste. Absolutely. I don't want to take that away from anybody. I'm just saying that my general experience has been when I've pressed people who have said to me, I'm not looking forward to Robert Pattinson as Batman. And I've pressed him on, have you seen any of his movies that he's been doing the last 5, 6, 7 years? It's usually no. And that's understandable because most of his stuff has been pretty much indie fare, but they've been some great stuff. Anyway, 50 Shades Geek writes, is Excalibur a weapon? So, it's a sword of, no, it is very much a weapon. It is a sword. All Might writes, John, how dare you watch the Harley Quinn show before My Hero Academia? What kind of customer service is that? Just kidding. Glad you're enjoying the new show. My Hero Academia will always be there for you to watch. And again, I just had more people starting to tell me I needed to watch Harley Quinn, and I'm so glad that they did. At some point, I need to watch My Hero Academia because a lot of you guys are telling me I should. Robert's telling me I should. My wife, Ann, is telling me I should. So I really do need to get around to that. And at some point, I will. At some point, I will. So thank you for the reminder, All Might. All right. Ryan Lohner writes, The Witcher impressed me enough to start reading the books. Nice. And one thing the show actually tones down is each story is a dark take on a fairy tale. Renfrey is Snow White. The Djinn story is Aladdin, and so on. Pretty neat stuff. See, I've never read the books myself, Ryan. I've never read the books. I've only ever played one of the games. And so I really didn't know much about the lore and the background of Witcher, other than I was pretty excited to see it. And I think the show's great. Perfect? No. Best show of the year? No. But I thought it was pretty damn great. I really enjoyed it thoroughly. And that's the first time I've ever heard about that each story is kind of a take on a classic fairy tale. I think that's actually pretty damn interesting. That's pretty damn interesting. You might get me curious about that now, Ryan. Thanks a lot for sharing that, dude. All right. Next up, Suthius writes, Hi, guys. Randomly watched an episode of Movie Talk with Mova, Campea, Christian Schnepp, and Johns. Campea had goofed his opening and did the whole F it, we'll do it live. I missed the roundtable. Imagine Campea, Mr. Burnett, Chris and Aaron roundtable. Oh my God. I mean, yeah, listen, I really do enjoy the roundtable stuff too. I very much do enjoy the roundtable stuff. And if I had the facility and the equipment to do stuff like that, I probably would from time to time, but I just simply don't have the facility for it. I just don't have the facility or the equipment or anything like that for it, because I would need like a room big enough for a table to hold everybody and enough cameras and all that kind of stuff. And as you guys can see, I'm actually in a relatively small room. I mean, I do a pretty good job, I think, of making this room feel like it's big, but it's not. This is a spare. This John Campea International Multimedia Studio is a spare bedroom in my place in Burbank. It's my spare bedroom. And I clearly cannot fit that sort of space in here. It takes a lot of space and I just don't have it. But maybe one of these days we'll have the space where we can do it. Maybe we'll get back to some roundtable stuff because I did enjoy it. But don't get me wrong, I actually love this sort of, I like just me and one guest, me and two sometimes when I have Chris and Aaron on for No Pants Thursdays. Again, we were going to have No Pants Thursday this Thursday, but I was sick and we couldn't do the show. And it turns out Chris was sick too, and she couldn't do it. But those were good times. All right. We move on now. Next up is Savage Hulk writes, Comics Explained, another YouTube channel with almost 2 million subs and good credibility, said that he had it on good authority that Christian Bale would be playing Norman Osborn in 3 scenes in Thor 4. How legit do you think that is? Well, anything is as legit as anything else right now. No idea. It's totally possible. With the upcoming separation, though, of Marvel and Sony, with the Spider-Man stuff after 2 more Spider-Man movies, it would seem like an odd choice to have him play Osborn, but it's totally, I mean, it's within the realm. Look, there's a couple of barrels right now. And in one barrel is a whole ton of completely ridiculous notions. In another barrel are some theories that might on the outside have a possibility. And then there's a barrel that there's a ton of different theories in, but they all have really good rational bases for them. And I think that theory is as much belonging in that barrel as a lot of other ones. So I do think there would be some arguments against it, but at the same time, it's feasible. It's absolutely feasible. So let's put it this way, I won't be totally surprised or shocked. By the way, Number of subscribers that a channel has in no way speaks to their credibility. It doesn't. And by the way, just because I have like 200,000 subscribers doesn't mean that I have more credibility than somebody who has 5,000 subscribers or anything necessary like that. So subscriber numbers doesn't equal credibility. But as far as the theory itself goes, I don't see any huge flashing red lights that would insist that it couldn't possibly be true. I mean, it very well could be. That one very well could be. It makes about as much sense as any other good theory out there right now. All right. Let's see. Next one up is Todd, who writes, if Stargirl does well, could we see next year's crossover be like the original Justice League of America, Justice Society of America crossovers from the comics, where the Arrowverse JLA Earth Prime teams up with the JSA from Earth 2? I was just hyped to see Dr. Midnight. But I mean, maybe I'm misunderstanding. First of all, whenever you ask a question, say could or ever, the answer is almost yeah. Could that happen? Yeah, it could. It's a possibility, but I don't think likely. But correct me if I'm wrong. There is no more. My impression at the end of Crisis on Infinite Earths is that there is no more Earth 2. I don't think there is an Earth 2 anymore. I thought it was just that's it. It was now down to just one Earth. Maybe I missed something. But as far as coulds go, I don't think likely at all. But could? Sure. Anything is a could. Anything is a could. I mean, they surprised us with Ezra Miller. That means anything can possibly happen, Todd. Anything at all. All right. Murray Reich writes, my top 10 best films of 2019. Number 10, Honey Boy. Number 9, Yesterday. Number 8, A Beautiful Day. Number 7, Queen and Slim. Number 6, Uncut Gems. Number 5, Just Mercy. Number 4, Shazam. Number 3, Jojo Rabbit. Number 2, Joker. Number 1, Endgame. Honorable mentions, Shaft, Marriage Story, I want to say Fast and Furious, Ford v Ferrari, Richard Jewell, Rocketman, John Wick 3. I mean, a lot of great films. There were just so many great films this year. It really did. I mean, I remember in the midsummer, a lot of us going, wow, 2019 is really the year of the disappointing movie. But really, you get to the end of the year, it's like, oh my God, there were so many great movies this year. So many great movies. And like, they're all great. And you got a number of on your list that'll be in mine as well. Endgame's not going to make my top 10, to be honest with you. It's a big, bombastic, super fun movie, but it's filled with so many plot holes, and a lot of it was just pure fan service. And I had a remarkably good time watching the movie. I did. You guys have seen me react to it and my review of it. I really enjoyed Endgame overall, but yeah, it's probably not going to be in my top 10 of the year. Definitely a good one, just not my top 10 of the year. All right. Cinema Reviews writes, The Rise of Skywalker feels like JJ rocked up to me and said, oh, you like The Last Jedi? And then kicked me in the crotch. It's the first Star Wars movie I've ever hated. And now as a Last Jedi fan, I feel even less safe. I pray that whatever JJ is working on with Warner Brothers isn't DC related, because I'm never. Well, I mean, here's the thing, Cinema Reviews. Oh no, somebody did one movie I didn't like. I want nothing to do with them ever again. That's not a healthy attitude. It's not a healthy attitude. Look, every filmmaker has a bad day at the office. I didn't like the Rise of Skywalker either. It certainly had nothing to do with the fact that he clearly took The Last Jedi and just threw it over his shoulder. Pun intended. But it has nothing to do with that. It's just, I thought he made a poor movie. He ditched his own storylines. He never intended for Rey to be somebody's daughter. He never intended for Palpatine to come back. He never intended for a whole bunch of the things that they did in this movie. It's just that, hey, everybody's crying that Rey wasn't somebody related to somebody famous. Okay, well, let's make her related to somebody famous and change everything that we were doing. They just listened too much. They needed to make the movies they thought they should make, just like he did in The Force Awakens, which he did a magnificent job. To me, The Force Awakens is still the best Star Wars movie that's not in the original trilogy. That being said, I think J.J. Abrams is a really good filmmaker. I do not like The Rise of Skywalker. It let me down, but Steven Spielberg is the greatest filmmaker of all time. He's got a movie that I didn't like and let me down. I mean, every filmmaker has a bad day at the office, so I would pump the brakes on this. I never want anything to do with this filmmaker again because they did one movie you didn't like. I don't think that's a good outlook, because you're going to run out of filmmakers to like pretty fast if that's the case. That's all I'm saying. Dude. But yeah, I didn't like Rise of Skywalker either. All right, Mr. 47 writes, Just saw both Uncut Gems in 1917. Just a nice double feature, dude. Just incredible cinema, both equally anxiety-inducing, especially Uncut. Wow. Adam's best performance, pushing Reign Over Me to number 2 on my list. I still prefer Reign Over Me. He had more nuance, I think, in Reign Over Me than he did in Uncut Gems. I feel like in Uncut Gems, which was a magnificent performance, by the way. I'm not taking anything away from it. He was great in that. But I feel like it was a little bit more on the sleeve as opposed to a little bit more nuanced like it was in Reign Over Me. That's why I just prefer that performance over the other one. Yeah, Uncut Gems is great. It's a movie that's not going to make my top 10 of the year, but I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was really sharp, really good. And Adam Sandler just showing again, he was touched by God at birth with just a very natural, dramatic acting chops. And I wish he would I know he gets big paychecks for them, but I wish he would just kill the whole comedy thing now and just stick to his dramatic acting. Because I think if he did, in 10 years, he's got 2 Oscars on his mantle. I mean, I really think he's that naturally good. So it's going to be interesting to see where he goes from here. All right, Cinema Reviews also writes, watching anything he directs from now on, after hearing about him demanding not to have to work with the Lucasfilm Story Group, which there is evidence to support, and retconning a lot of The Last Jedi's major elements, my respect for him is all but gone. Again, I think that's a ludicrous and ridiculous position. I think that's a ridiculous thing to take. First of all, he worked very closely with Kathleen Kennedy on that. Number 2, he decided he wanted to take this film in his direction as a filmmaker. Rian Johnson did the same thing for The Last Jedi. Listen, I like The Last Jedi. I do. I have my problems with it, but I like The Last Jedi. But even as somebody who likes The Last Jedi, there's no denying that while Rian Johnson didn't outright massively change stories, it's a very, very different movie from The Force Awakens. Rian Johnson clearly did not go, let's be a true continuation of The Force Awakens. He made a very different feeling movie. And there's parts of that I really appreciated. I do. But J.J. Abrams just did the same thing. He's like, okay, I'm just going to make my movie. And he made this movie, and it is what it is. But I think this whole thing about a director did one movie that I didn't like, and therefore I'm never going to watch. Again, you're going to run out of directors to watch real fast if you keep that attitude. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. All right. Porg Hub writes, 1 of 3. I have a decent surround sound set up at home, and the other day I found out just how good it is. I have one of the speakers directly beside my seat for ambiance. When my wife is not interested in a movie, she'll read a book while sitting next to me. I turned on The Lighthouse, which after watching, I still have no idea what it's about or even what genre it actually is. Dude, that's how I felt walking out of it too. I was riveted by it, but I had no idea what it was I just watched. And the first thing that Willem Dafoe does when meeting Robert Pattinson is cut a loud fart. Thanks to my speaker placement, my wife thought it was me and gave me the wife stare and said, "You're gross," and left the room, leaving me to say, "But honey, it wasn't me, it was the Green Goblin." So thank you, Willem Dafoe, for really setting the mood for my evening. Dude, that is one of the best movie watching stories at home I've heard in a long time. That's awesome. And yeah, just to speak to The Lighthouse for a second. The Lighthouse is such an odd movie, not just because it's an odd movie, but even because of my reaction to it. It's an odd movie. I was completely riveted to the screen every minute, mostly because of the incredible performances by Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson, who were just crazy good on it, and their chemistry together was nuts. But I had for the most part, by the time that movie ended, I'm like, well, I have no idea what I just watched. I understand the mythology connections, I do, but still at the end of the day, I walked out of the theater, I'm like, I have no idea what the hell I just watched. I mean, it's a crazy movie. Maybe that's what they were going for. Maybe they were trying to do something that was really just too difficult and too hard that you can't quantify or whatever. Maybe that's what they were going for, but yeah, man, it's a different kind of film, dude. It's absolutely a different kind of film. All right. Let's see. Cinema Reviews also writes, on a more positive note, my top 5 movies of 2019. Number 1, Knives Out. I love that film. Number 2, Jojo Rabbit. That's my number 1 film. Number 3, Avengers Endgame. Number 4, Joker. And number 5, Aladdin. You know, Aladdin is a film that while it did not make my top 10, it has got to be one of my most pleasant surprise movies of the year. Absolutely one of my most pleasant surprise movies of the year. I adored Aladdin. I had so much fun with it. It was just, you know, I'm a big Guy Ritchie fan. Hell, I even liked his King Arthur movie that everybody hates. I even like that. But whether you're talking Lock, Stock, Snatch is like one of my all-time favorite films. I really like Guy Ritchie's sensibilities that he brings to a film. And even I, as a Guy Ritchie fan, when they announced that he was going to be the director for Aladdin, even I had to go, what? Like, I like Guy Ritchie, but that does not seem like a fit, like, at all. So I was very curious to see how that damn thing would turn out, and I was really pleasantly surprised how much fun I had with that movie. Again, it's not going to be in my personal top 10, but dude, it is a movie that, again, probably in my top 3 or 4 most pleasant surprise movies of the year by how good it was. It was just so much better than I thought it was going to be, and what a great pleasant surprise that film was. All right, John Klobuchar, Klobukar? I'm sure I'm butchering your name, John. Forgive me, my friend. Christian Harloff just confirmed that Jar Jar Binks was originally going to be played by Morgan Freeman. I'm just kidding. Oh my gosh. Well, couldn't have done anything but made it better than it was. That's for sure, John. All right. Harry Mudd writes, where are we at? There's Harry. Harry writes, Mos Eisley Spaceport, you will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy. We must be cautious. One of the best lines ever that just created a whole mythology of a place based on one line. A good, well-crafted line in a classic movie. It's just forever. It's just in the canon. Everybody knows it. There are people who've never seen Star Wars that even if you say that line, they'll know who you're talking about. Like, Star Wars is just a movie like that. There are people in this world who haven't seen Star Wars. But you ask them, who's Luke's father? They'll tell you, Darth Vader, like they know it. And most people say, where's this line from? You will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy. I think a lot of people, even who haven't seen Star Wars, will know that line and say it back to you. All right, guys, last question for this particular installment here. Raph Film Buff Castillo writes, of interest to Robert Meyer Burnett, who is not here right now, obviously, I recommend a book called Liar, Radical Homes, and Hideouts of Movie Villains, from Bond to Blade Runner and The Incredibles and more. 9x13, 295 pages, all black with silver type and images, photos, floor plans, elevations. Amazing. Okay, time out. Okay, I hear you. Just give me a second here. What is this damn thing called? First of all, let me go to Amazon. And let me look for this thing. Radical Homes and Hideouts. Let me see. Radical Homes and Hideouts of Movie Villains. It's called, okay, Lair. Radical, woo, even the color, even the cover is all black with silver imprint. $42. Just came out in November. Oh, that looks pretty. Oh my goodness. Guys, I highly recommend. Oh man. All right, I'm going to have to get this book. This looks just awesome. Actually, let me pull it up here if I can. Let me see if I can get this up and on the screen right now. I don't think I can right now. Okay, but this looks great. Thank you for that recommendation, Ralph. I'll pass this on to Robert, but screw Robert. I'm interested in this book. I want to see this thing. Okay, guys, that will do it for this installment of the John Campea Show. This isn't the John Campea Show. This is the companion video. This will do it for this installment of the companion video. We do still have some more to get through, but I've run out of time right now. Probably do another companion video this weekend. Keep your guys' eyes open for it. So if you're somebody who still has an outstanding question, keep your eyes open. It's probably coming in the next one. Guys, while you're here, why don't you take a second, click the thumbs up button, and make sure you hit subscribe as well. Become a subscriber to the John Campea YouTube channel. Of course, the John Campea Show will return again on Monday morning with me and Robert Meyer Burnett. And yeah, guys, thanks so much for being here. That'll do it for me for now. My name is John Campea, guys, and until next time, bye-bye.